Alright, so we are going to talk about recoding your variables. Some of you have chosen variables for your project that need to be put into different categories. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the details of your project afterwards. So I've just opened up some data. You should have opened the 2012 General Social Survey. I've just opened the 2008 to practice on because that's what's on my computer. I don't have to download it. But here we have the data, and let's say that I want, so political views right now, this is a scale variable, right? It says, it's basically asking you, are you extremely conservative to extremely liberal? Now, let's say that I want, right now it's saying that extremely conservative is a 1 and extremely liberal is a 7. So extremely conservative is lower on the scale. So the relationship is conservative is negative, liberal is positive. So say for some reason I want to reverse this, and I want extremely conservative to be a 7, and I want extremely liberal to be a 1. This will change the way that it comes out in the crosstab. It'll change the order that the categories are in your frequency distribution, and it's also going to make a difference in future calculations. So if you have a variable that is strongly agree to strongly disagree, or some other sort of scale like that, you might want to reverse it depending on how it's worded. So normally in a strongly agree to strongly disagree, what you'll find is they'll put strongly agree as a 1 and strongly disagree will be a 5. And most of the time you want to flip that unless the question is negatively worded. So here's what you would do if you decide you want to flip it. The first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out what your categories currently are and kind of write those down or keep track. Now the key is I can keep this window, I should be able to keep it open. And so I'm going to keep that open so I have something to kind of go by. I'm going to move it to the side. Then I'm going to go up to Data. Yes, Data. And I am going to, oh, why can't I, hold on. I do. I thought it would let me keep it. Okay. So I'm going to do what is called, oh, sorry. I'm not going to go to Data. I'm going to go to Transform. Sorry, the next one over. I'm going to go to Transform, and I'm going to recode. That's what it's called. You're recoding. Now, whenever you recode, it's important to recode into a brand new variable. What this will do is it will leave your original variable alone. And so just in case you mess up, you still have your original variable to go back to. And so you want to recode into a different variable. So I'm going to click that option. And then I'm going to choose my variable. And I'm going to go by variable names. And I want to change poll views. And I'm going to change that, and I'm just going to call it poll views 2. You can change it to whatever you want, and then you can label it whatever you want. And so I'm just going to recode of poll views with extremely liberal equals 1, so that I know kind of what my coding scheme is. So then I'm going to click on Change. So again, you can put anything in there. You don't have to choose the label right now. You can always change it later, but you're going to choose something that's you're going to remember. So then I'm going to go in, and let's see. I should be able to move that. Okay, now I can open. There we go. Now I can have both windows open. So I have both windows open, and I'm going to go to old and new values. Oh, you're not going to let me. It used to let me do that. Okay, never mind. I'm going to choose old and new values, and I'm going to put in what the old value was, and then I'm going to put in what I want the new value to be. So basically my values were 1 to 7, and I want to flip those. So now I want my old value to be now I want it to be a 7. So I'm going to put in my old value, and then my new value, and then click Add. Then I want a number 2 to now be a number 6. And then I want a number 3 to now be a number 5. And I want a 4. It's still going to be a 4 because it's the middle of the scale. And then I want a 5 to now be a 3. and I want a 6 to be a 2, and then I want a 7 to be a 1. So basically I've just flipped those around. You see what we're doing there? So I'm going 1 through 6 or 1 through 7 over here, and I'm changing that to a 7 to 1. And then I need to do something with my missing values, right? So I had some other categories in there, maybe a -1, an 8, and a 9 that all represented missing data. And so I'm going to go and click all other values, and I want those to be system missing, okay? Because those are people that didn't answer the question. And so I'm going to lump those people together into a missing category, and I'm going to add that in there. If you don't, you'll end up with some kind of odd things going on. So again, what I do is I put in what the old value was, and then I put in what I want the new value to be, and then I add it. And if I need to make a correction, I can click on it and I can make a correction. Okay? So that's recoding. So then I'm going to click continue, and then I'm going to click OK. And it tells me that I recoded. That's my output. And then, oh, that's not the one I wanted to hit. So if I look at my data, so I only had 15 variables before, now I have 16 variables. There's my poll views too. And there is my label for it. So now I need to put my values back in, right? So I don't have, the values didn't copy over. So I'm going to want to copy these over, but flip them. So this is where you probably should write it down before you start doing it. But a 1 I know is going to be extremely liberal. And you can go back and forth if you need to look at it. And then a 2 I guess is going to be liberal. So I'm just putting in the labels, again, reversing it from what it was before. 3 is going to be somewhat liberal. 4 is going to be moderate. 5 is going to be somewhat conservative. And then 6 is going to be conservative. And then 7 is going to be extremely conservative. And so once I have all those added, so now I have all of my labels put in, and I'm going to click OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a quick frequency distribution of my old variable and my new variable so that I can compare and make sure I did it correctly. So I'll go to Data, and Analyze, if I want to run a frequency distribution. Come on. There we go. Descriptive statistics, frequencies, and I'm going to pick my variables, and I've got my poll views and poll views 2, and I'm just going to click OK. Alright, so what you will see in my frequency table, so here's the original. Here's poll views. And you can see it goes from extremely conservative to extremely liberal. Take a look at the percentages and kind of the total. And then my Recode. Now it goes from extremely liberal to extremely conservative. And you'll notice that the numbers match up. So there were 33 extremely liberal here. There's 33 here. You want that to match up and make that comparison. And then you should have the same total. You should have the same system missing. All the numbers should match up. You've just flipped the scale. So rather than going from extremely conservative to extremely liberal, you're going the other way around. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you are looking for a linear relationship, you don't want to be talking about double negatives. And so you want your variables to go in the right order. And so that'll become more apparent next week when we talk about measures of association and kind of this positive or negative relationship, right? So some of you have variables that need to be recoded. Not everyone does. But if you do, this is the process that you're going to go through. All right. Any questions about that?